Hello, the people of the internet. My name is Omondi Chuka, and today I am with Joaquim Simiyu. Water.
Yeah.
Water is health.
Water is life.
Water is life. When we talk of politicians
Yes.
and their modus operandi, how they operate, how they philosophize, how they transact through life, we know that they speak through many mouths besides theirs. We know that they wear so many skins. Politicians are some of the people that wear so many fancy clothes. And it's not just the metaphor of it, it's also the literal sense of it. So I am of interest, particularly regarding developments that have happened in the country in the last 3 or so years. When we look at how Raila Odinga has morphed from the darling of political opposition to now outrightly or graciously working with the government. And it is very important to see how to place him into context in terms of how he communicates with his constituency, how he solidifies his legacy, because I believe Raila Odinga is living in his legacy years, the sunset years, so to speak. And that brings us to the bigger picture in terms of, because one thing that was very common, particularly when the Gen Z were demonstrating last year and protesting over the cost of living and so many other issues that they had, and the response that we were getting is just a communication problem, which I had a problem with. So we want to problematize how communication problem is not exactly a communication problem, how it points to the bigger picture of what is not being said, what is being consumed in private balconies, what is being consumed in conclaves, like he has already declared in the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yes.
So I want to pick your mind shortly. How do you place political communication in terms of an active problem that we have in the country?
We've had this problem for quite some time. The things that people raise as issues to be addressed and the response they get from the authorities that are supposed to address those issues are two very different things. Let me say, for example, there's a problem of joblessness among the youth. And the youth fills the streets to complain about this issue and say, hey, look, the government, we feel like they are not doing enough in the endeavor to create jobs, and therefore we are here to protest and make them know that we are so many out here and we have nothing to do. Now, instead of the government coming and addressing that issue, telling the young people, no, this is what is happening that points to solving this problem, what they come with is to tell them things that do not even relate to the problem. That, when you protest, this country might burn and we will end up having no country. It's better bad country or no country at all.
Yes.
So they tell you things that do not really speak to the need that you raised.
Yes.
And this has been a problem for quite some time. And previously, the government has been successful in sweeping things under the carpet, talking to the big political elites from areas where there is a lot of unrest. And then the political elite comes to the people and tells them there's something we are doing, so just cool down. But the recent past, there has been a consistent eruption of discontentment from the people, the young people most especially. And there are things we've seen, concerted effort from both sides of government, because right now we have a government with the two sides. We have a government with a UDA side and a government with an ODM side.
A snake with two heads.
Yes. So this monster with two scary heads has not really. They go down in history as a government that has faced a lot of wrath from unemployed youth.
Yes.
Like the other day, you saw the PS for Interior had to escape from a venue where he went to talk to the young people who had turned up to be interviewed for climate work, as they call it.
Yes.
But it's actually kazi mtaani. Siku hizi kuosha mtaro imepewa jina mzuri, inaitwa climate work. And the peers had to leave the venue. Some very prominent government people were not able to speak. But then again, there is someone who has to survive all this. He has to maintain his relationship with government, but then again appear like he's speaking on behalf of the people. And therefore, he has to ensure that people do not really know where he is. And he has to assign his mouthpieces to do different types of work. He assigns one side of the people to say, we are full in this government and we are not leaving, you can go to hell. Then another group of people from the same camp come and say, hey, we can see the problem. This government is doing literally nothing to solve the problem. And I think the relationship we have with this government should come to an end today.
Yes.
And then the owner of this camp comes out and says, you know, in my camp we have democracy, where all opinions matter. And everybody who speaks from this party, they have a right to speak the way they want. And especially the Secretary General, he speaks the language of the party. And we know that this party, the person speaking, the owner of the party, is actually the party. So in some sense, we see that when the Secretary General speaks, is actually the owner of the party speaking.
Yes.
But then he maintains he's so good that you don't have to actually know what is happening. The moment you think you know what's happening, you realize you don't know anything. So like, let me pick the recent one. The other day, Secretary General Sifuna appears with a lot of fireworks on Citizen TV. And people are like, hey, this is the young man who has seen the future, me included, I said that, and he just wants to position himself for any eventuality in the future. And I think he's begun to pull to a different direction from the party boss.
Some sanity at least.
Yes, say a ray of hope. Then a few days later, the Secretary General emerges with the party leader and a few other faces, reassuring Kenyans that the relationship with the government is here to stay. And the same Secretary General who in the last few days said this relationship is hurting the party is actually confirming that the relationship is here to stay. So it becomes difficult for the average Kenyan to pick the pieces and know what is happening.
Right.
But me and you know that this is the tactic that Mzee has used for decades, maintaining mystery about his next move, that you only know what he's planning to do
until he speaks it.
Until he speaks it or does it.
Right.
Most of the time he can speak this and do that. And in the new crop of the mouthpieces, I think Secretary General Sifuna serves two roles.
At the same time.
One, Sifuna is a person Raila can use to come back to the people. Raila will come and say, "Yatumaiya maneno Sifuna alikuwa anasema. Mimi nilikuwa nimesema sema hivyo." And two, Sifuna is being used so that the other side of government doesn't know what's really happening the other side. Because I saw a member of ODM say that the party has come to an end. There is the beginning of the end of the party. But this guy has not been disciplined. We know how ODM operates around people who show disloyalty.
Yes.
But I have not had that. So it points to a very interesting scenario. But here is the catch. I think it has come to a point where these gimmicks will not work.
Yes.
Because we have a very aware electorate right now. And in the past, no one would sit the way we are seated like this and try to dissect these issues.
Yes.
And now that we are talking about these issues, we are actually peeling back the mask. And that points to a possibility that really we have the beginning of the end. I have studied how parties die in this country. Previously, big parties, there's a process they start dying. A usually national party retreats to one region. They now lose the popularity of the country. Now they
National appeal, yes.
They go back to one region. Then over time, even in that region,
it wanes off.
It wanes off, falls out of favor with the people. It becomes a party of a particular small area in that region.
Right. I want to bring to your attention something that has come to my mind before I read for you an excerpt that I want us to discuss. A key critical issues in last year, the 625 demonstration that happened last year, was geared towards a leaderless, tribeless, and a partyless outfit. And while the Gen Z movement has been under criticism for the very same three pillars that they were building upon.
Yes.
Could you see that at some point the younger generation had gotten to a point and saw that our parties did not evolve beyond their ideals? Because if you look at the inception of Kenya as a country, where we had KADU and KANU, and there was at least a clear demarcation in terms of their ideological leanings, in terms of what they want and what the manifesto they had in place for the country had they taken power. But over time, we find that parties have morphed to become silent toolkits for particular people, particularly powerful people. And often these people were not even there when these parties were being registered. They were not there when these parties' constitutions were being written until later on. And it's also how parties happen by happenstance. In other words, the circumstances created a situation where we had ODM. Had it not been for the no and yes constitutional vote, probably would not have had an ODM party. And the ideals that led to them voting no against the draft, have we veered and departed from it? That is number one. And number two, is it a good reason for the Gen Z movement to have said, no, something is going on fishy here? We know parties are actually assets for particular politicians. When you look at PNU, when you look at Wiper, you say Wiper and the person who comes in your mind is Kalonzo Musyoka.
Yes.
You say ODM and the person who comes to your mind is Raila Odinga. You say Jubilee and it's Uhuru Kenyatta. And these people are not small fish, as we might say. They are big people who command very good following. They have a charisma. They have money and financial muscle to actually bulldoze their way through even the party structures. And so party structures become very formal dressings. But deep down there's a rot. There's a rot that I think, in my opinion, the Gen Z have sort of taken a step back and realized that we have been doing the very same things over and over again, and we are not producing a different result. And I think perhaps to change a country, you do not necessarily need a party. You actually do need the integrity to roll out something that is compassionate to the national ideal of a country. You do not need a party for that. And if we needed a party, then all these more than 300 parties that are registered in Kenya would have produced impeccable results for our country. but we're actually seeing the opposite of things.
Yes.
So please comment on those two issues, and then I can read for you an excerpt. Okay.
I think Gen Zs are okay, not having a centralized center of power for themselves. Because how this country operates, had we had a centralized center of power, spot of power for Gen Zs, we know this is the structure of leadership, this is the president of Gen Z, this is the secretary. It's very good to call someone on the table. Very easy. So they say, we are meeting president of Gen Z tomorrow, so that he can go back and communicate this to Gen Zs. We are giving him this thing, so he will go back and quell the fires from his people. But the approach they came with of being tribeless, partyless, and
leaderless. Yes.
It actually gave the political class very hard time.
A headache, actually, yes.
A headache.
Yes.
To an extent that government used a formula called, let's wait and see. Because you couldn't know what is really going to happen and who is giving direction. Because we can abduct or Chuka, tomorrow there is someone
Another
else.
one else in place.
So it really gave them a headache. That's why every time there is this question, who is your leader? Please organize yourselves. Bring us your leader. I say, no, Kenya, you must be from some tribe. We know that there is nothing like Gen Z. When we go to elections, every Gen Z will go back to their tribe, and we shall not have any Gen Z.
Actually, that's one of the things they're waiting for.
They are waiting for that,
yes.
Because that's the only way they can survive. That if you get out of your tribal barriers, it becomes difficult for them to control you.
To even see you.
Yes.
You're invisible outside of your tribal
So how will a member of parliament from Thika campaign without using a tribe? How will a member of parliament from Rongo campaign without using some tribe? It now becomes difficult, and you have to come with a clear agenda for your people and find something else to talk about. And because the leadership, the political class that we have is unwilling to identify real issues to discuss, they want to remain and maintain status quo of tribal politics. And that's where the Gen Zs got them off guard. And until we deal with this issue, the issue of parties and all that is not necessary. The issue of saying now Gen Zs should organize themselves, have your own party and all that. No.
Bring your representatives, the 40 representatives, so that we can talk to them.
The other day I was wondering.
Yes.
Let's say you're a father. You have your kids in your home. And one day your kids come protesting to you, saying that as a dad, you're not paying school fees. You are not providing food. You're beating mom every day. You are even scaring our neighbors. Can we handle this issue? Then as a father, you stand and ask your children, but who is your leader?
Yeah, go and do an election somewhere.
Yes, can you go sit somewhere and bring your leader? You are their father. So you are their leader. So as the president asked about who is the leader of Gen Z, he has forgotten he's their president. He's actually their leader. And sometimes they ask, who is funding Gen Z?
You are.
He's the one funding them.
Especially because of his own misfires.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you have to be funded to know that privatization of these very sensitive...
critical infrastructure.
Yes, is bad. Do you have to be funded to know that selling government shares from Safaricom amounts to national insecurity?
And I think this is the case of the monster not seeing the tail.
Yes, yes.
Because for a long time, Ruto is one person that lives in his head a lot. And I think that one of his greatest undoing is that how he operates from omniscience, from the idea that he is all smart and he can outsmart every possible political scenario. And so he miscalculates that him not working for the country, for the betterment of the country, is actually the tail that comes to bite him.
Yes.
You know, and that is actually, when I look at, I've sat long enough with the Gen Z movement. I've wrote a lot of articles for it on Medium, and I was coming to the conclusion that the government need not a financier for the demos to happen. The demos were so spontaneous to the fact that life offered the facts right on in front of us. We do not need a financier to come in place and tell us, I'm going to give you pangas, I'm going to give you iPhones to go to the street with. That's not the case. Because you look around, and the idea is most people who are greatly affected by life are either millennials and Gen Zs. Millennials because most of them first voted in 2007. And 2007 is very critical for Raila Odinga and Ruto, both of them.
Yes.
Because at that time they were in a team and they shared a vision for the country. And the aftermath is also when most Gen Zs were also born. So they are a product of a wound, they are a product of a political grief that has not been resolved 18 years, 20 years later, 30 years later. And we are coming to a point where you go to university, and some of us are now parents, myself included. And you are a product of free primary education, without which we would not have been sitting here, just like you mentioned in our previous episode. And you're wondering, what is the future of my child if I am the product of free primary education and I'm actively contributing to its dismantling? And it is not like these things are not possible. People say, government sympathizers say a lot of things. They say that it is not plausible enough to sustain free primary education or free healthcare to a certain degree. But it is a big lie, because the problem we have in this country is fiscal integrity.
Yes.
You know, the wastefulness we see in terms of public finance can alone service all these things that we need, the critical infrastructure, the agriculture, healthcare, education, to a certain degree, that the amount of work and burden that is left for the parent or for the farmer, for the mkulima somewhere, is small in comparison to what we are bearing currently. So I want us to go back to how it is no magic or no big rocket science to see how a government that does not look after itself by doing that which they promised in their manifesto is actually shooting themselves in the foot. He says that he wants to shoot people in the foot. I think the very foot he has shot is his own.
Yes.
And I think most of these things that Ruto is trying to look in terms of dilly-dallying and lovey-doving with Raila Odinga, or trying to do all those calculations that have happened, like in the Moi style or in the Kibaki era style, or in the Ruto regime style, could actually be solved if he had enough compassion and empathy to go back. Because I think one thing that he really suffers is one person that is very soulless, and he cannot go back and do an internal audit of himself and realize that, yes, we have a bigger burden. When he inherited the country as the president, we knew the amount of work needed. We knew the debt that was accrued under his watch as the deputy president of the former regime. We knew that even some of those debts were not their own doing, because they inherited them from a previous regime. So there was work needed. And that work that was needed do not require that you have an incompetent cabinet in place. Because I usually believe, the reason why we call it a kitchen cabinet is because I believe that one of the ways in which a fascist government controls the people is by impoverishing them, by starving them. I think starvation is one of the highest form of indignation. Anybody who starves you is one of the cruelest violence. Right now, even if you go to Gaza or if you go to Syria, once you cut supply of food and water, that is the highest form of violence, leave alone the bomb. The bomb is an afterthought. And so I think that we are getting to a place where we are being starved of our own humanity, our own sense of of place as a people in a country where you cannot take your kid to school without struggling, where you look around and you're seeing somebody is living a very flashy life and they don't have any particular job or work. And so you imagine that if I were to be like them, if I were to be trampling over people and walking over people, I might as well earn that life. And I think that's the temptation that a lot of us are now struggling with as a political headache, because every person you know, every politician is there to actually extract and rinse off resources from public coffers so that they can enrich themselves. I want to read for you a passage that I wrote on an article when I was thinking about the big dilemma in ODM. So it says, inside ODM, the turn and counter-turn theater has laid bare fractures. Edwin Sifuna's dissent, calling the MOU dead, placed him at odds with Oburu Oginga and the other party old guard, urging discipline and submission to Raila's authority. Meanwhile, Raila defended Sifuna's right to dissent, framing it as part of internal democracy, but swiftly led the party back into unity around the MOU by the 6-point PISA. Now, Junet Mohammed of Suna East invoked Raila's unique authority that only Raila can declare the MOU dead or alive. The tension embodies a paradox of ODM seeking unity but over vertical loyalty. Its SG is both voice of conscience and controlled variable in party discipline. Those are very two important things. The party no longer debates goals, it negotiates for optics. What are your thoughts about that?
Actually, you captured it so well. There's a party that will tell you that we have democracy of divergent opinions, but then comes back and tells you what Raila says is final.
Yes.
So how is this party
democratic?
Because Raila's word is final, but we have freedom of having divergent opinion. So this is, as I said at the beginning, this is a form they have used to remain irrelevant. I think Raila Odinga has mastered the art of placing himself into the conversation of the people. That as you discuss about the political direction of the country, you have to mention his name. And that's how he stays relevant in politics for decades. Even this issue of ODM and Edwin Sifuna, some of the things that we have said, we are going to see them happen even before 2027. Because, because there is going to be pressure from the members of the public, because the things that are being demanded cannot be postponed or waited for.
Or deferred, yes.
So all these gimmicks and games that they are playing cannot hold water. And I think Sifuna knows that. And to some point, he's thinking of what if ODM ends today? You know, if there is anyone in a very difficult position,
it might be him.
It's Sifuna.
Yes.
I liken him to a young man who was born out of wedlock. Your mother gave birth to you. Somewhere else before she got married. So she finally gets married to another man. You go with your mom to that other man. And that man takes good care of you. Takes you to school.
Give you a land somewhere.
Gives you land. And now you're living there.
Even earn their name.
Yes.
Yes.
And to some point, you try go looking for your father. But the kind of reception you receive is so cruel.
So like they're seeing it as a betrayal on their part, or your part.
You try go look your father, and they say, your real father now tells you, no, you're not welcome here. I don't know you. Go back. So your own biological father has disowned you. But this stepfather has taken you through school, has provided everything a parent should. And then you get to a point and you realize you're the favorite child to your stepfather. So you have tremendous respect for him. But sometimes later in life, you are confronted with a situation where there is a decision your stepfather has made that you do not agree with. But you do not want to upset him, because disagreeing with this decision is actually disrespecting, and you remember how life has been. He's the reason why you are here.
You are who you are.
So even the brilliance that you have, the bravery, you have all that taken from him. So you have this dilemma. What do I do? Do I go against my stepfather? Or I just agree to his decision? And when you agree to his decision, you risk destroying your reputation.
Altogether.
Agreeing to this decision, destroy your reputation. Disagreeing ruins the relationship you have with this stepfather.
I hope that you are enjoying that episode, people of the internet. You know, everybody says there is no job, and that is true. Also, that was me 10 years ago. The problem is that everybody is trying to get a job in their own town, in their own city, in their marketplace. They ask friends for jobs, mothers call uncles, uncles call fathers, but there are no jobs, right? Let me tell you what no one is telling you. Jobs migrated online. What I actually mean is there are many, many jobs around the world, and there is no one to do them. I have worked for a long time online, I think more than 10 years. I work for Americans, I work for Europeans, I work for the Chinese, the Australian, Canadians, the Ugandans, name all of them. And last year, I had a eureka moment. I said to myself, you know what? I should compile what I have been doing for the last 15 years. So in 2024, I wrote a book called Gold Mine, 18 Side Hustles for Africans. And it sold a lot of copies. In fact, I was going for, sometimes I was receiving 500 orders in a day. In 2025, something happened. AI came. I think in 2025, AI came. AI came in 2024, but in 2025, it is here with us. And people say AI is taking away their jobs. And for me, I'll say false. There are actually AI jobs. Na mimi ni nani? I created more jobs. We now have in my book 25 online and offline side hustles that you can do anywhere in the world, whether you are in the village, whether you are in your small town, whether you're in a marketplace, whether you are in your house, you can do them. In this powerful volume 2, I share 25 new actionable online hustles specifically researched and tailored for Africans. My new book provides clear step-by-step guidance, drawing from my extensive experience and research, including the mistakes I have made and lessons I have learned over 15 years in this online job market. You can become an executive assistant to busy folks in Europe, America, and Canada. You can also get paid for tasks like watching videos and taking online surveys. There are many of them, and they're in my book. You can also build a business as a virtual assistant, start an e-commerce without a shilling. You can also become an affiliate marketer or an online English tutor. And you can also do tens of AI jobs, and they're all in these books. If you have a job, that is fine, but I know around you there are so many people that are always looking for jobs and at home watching Netflix. Buy this book for your brother, for your sister, for your mother, cousin, husband, who is back at home all day, all night watching Netflix. Okay? Buy it for your friends. That friend who is always asking you for cash, you can buy this book for them. All the information is in the description below. You can also inbox me, you can WhatsApp me, or you can go to my website, which is oduorjagero.co.ke. The book is only 1,000 Kenya shillings. Or if you're anywhere around the world, the book is $10. So thank you very much. Back to programming.
You know what is coming out very interestingly right now?
Yeah.
That in this regard, Ruto and Raila are no different. Because Ruto himself does not take any counsel.
Yes.
He does not.
He does.
And he does not even encourage it. And the other thing that Ruto has consistently also placed bare before the country is how he mocks young people's voices. Like, hiyo ni kitu kidogo itaenda tu. Yeah. And I feel it's almost the same thing happening within ODM and actually all major parties and even the smaller parties. Because we have a space where we think, because parties are a product of democracy. In fact, they are the small gears, the bigger gears that drives democracy. Through that is how we mobilize from grassroots to regional to the national appeal and the vehicle upon which an outfit such as a party hopes and dreams to drive a country forward. So we have a space that pretends to hold the ideals of democracy. But those same ideals are thwarted upon when a situation presents itself where you have to actually honor those ideals. So it gets me to a point of picking apart how one key issue that has happened within the Orange House. I am privy because I have also worked very close. In 2013, I was very close to the ODM party. And I have also known some of my peers, some older than me. When you look at Dungosi, I don't know if you knew.
Yeah,
yes,
Dungosi, yes.
Was at one point a political equal in the struggle with Raila.
Yes.
When you look at other people who are currently desk foot soldiers in Orange House, who are once brilliant people in ODM. Some others have departed. When you look at the Secretary General tenure of Babu Namwamba, while he was brilliant and his peak, when you look at Bado Mapambano or Tino Kajwang, and you look at how loyalty simmers and becomes a wound, so much that the brilliance and the bravery and the courage to articulate yourself beyond your own selfish reasons become something that determines your fall from glory. And I want to place this into context because 3 or 4 people come into mind. Number one is James Orengo. James Orengo has had a very interesting relationship with Raila. At one point, they never used to see eye to eye. I think the late Jaramogi Oginga used to prefer him to his own son. And so there was a bit of a drama and rivalry between him and Oginga and Raila.
Yes.
But at some point, maybe they made amends and they had to work together. There is also Professor Nyong'o, very closely related to Raila Odinga. And I think at some point last year, he came to the defense of Edwin Sifuna because Edwin Sifuna had not started breathing fire this year or recently.
Yes.
I think he is one person that has been battling his conscience for a long time.
A very long time.
Just like you said, they are like the anecdote of a person who was born elsewhere and now you have to leave. It's something that is very common in many African countries. And not just Africa, it's a human thing to battle with a sense of belonging, particularly where you feel your loyalty and rewardship is supposed to be placed elsewhere, but that elsewhere is where you derive your identity, you derive your whole being there. And then there's also Gladys Wanga, also very, very silent and interestingly silent, because I think Wanga is calculating, words on the street is Wanga is calculating the possibility of ditching governorship and betting herself for deputy president in 2027. And so her being ODM chair and her being silent, not meddling in the issues, even though that places her being a chair is courtesy enough for her to actually voice her concern, if at all ODM is supposed to be democratic. And then the other person is Babu Owino. Babu Owino has also been a very difficult position, particularly given the portfolio history of how he got his nomination, how he has attempted to become governor for Nairobi, but has been told, wait to Leah, relax a little bit. And then I think when he had the issue with DJ Evolve, with the shooting of DJ Evolve, that tainted his image. But then again, he had the political capital of having been the potential of a future leader. But now he had jeopardized it with this shooting of DJ Evolve. And the other person that comes, because I'd place Junet Mohammed and Oburu Oginga, although one is older than the other, but they come out as loyalists to Raila Odinga at whatever cost. Almost as if they don't have their own conscience, because I've never seen any moment when Oburu Oginga has differed with his brother. If there is, maybe you could share some more later on. There isn't. I've never seen a situation where Junet Mohammed has disagreed with Raila Odinga based on principle, based on his own political conscience, that this, I don't think this is okay, even though I respect whatever it is that you wish.
Once he does that, he's done.
Yes. And then also looking at how these people, particularly Gladys Wanga, Edwin Sifuna, these young firebrands of ODM rose through power. At some point, when I was analyzing the speech of Edwin Sifuna, at some point he had to refer back, a point of reference that, I was just a nobody until Raila saw me. And then you can see his rising through the rank from being a technical advisor back then in 2013 to being in the legal committee. You can also see it with Gladys Wanga from moments when she was a student leader in KU to working in the NGO world, and then now rising through ODM rank and getting into parliament committees. It's as if there's a system in which a father rewards loyalty, upon which if you bring a certain divergent opinion, then you're seen as disloyal. And disloyalty is punished ruthlessly, almost as if a father cannot sit in a campfire in the evening and say, in the morning, I heard you say something. Sasa usikuja uniambie tujadiliane. It's as if the father wants to paint a picture of dialogue, which is a very favorite word of his, but which he does not honor indeed.
In his own party, there's no dialogue. It's his word. But out here, we need democracy to talk. Because the best way of controlling people, you make sure that you are responsible of taking them from one area. You make them indebted to you. That you could be struggling with something, then I help you achieve what you want without asking you for anything. Then I say, hey, Chuka, now that I know you, I have an office in Westlands, come work for me. Even if that office is doing things that you don't like, before you talk ill of those things, you remember where you came from before you came into this office.
And it haunts you.
It haunts you because as you ask questions, I remind you, where did I meet you from? Said, you met me in Aquare, I was doing some manual job. Would you have gotten what you have were it not for me? I say, no, without you I would have been nowhere. So do your job and stop asking questions.
There's something very, very, very peculiar when I think of that. I'm very sure you've watched Italian mafia movies.
Yes.
There's something called the Godfather, and there are people who are made.
Yes.
So the idea of making somebody is it's loyalty unprovoked, loyalty unquestioned.
Yes.
You do and execute your duties. Most of them are menial jobs. Most of them are very dirty jobs. In other words, you are the person who gets the arrows.
Yes.
You are the person who meets the legal wrath of government and state operations. You're the person who gets the shame. You're the person who gets to strip naked in public. So when you're made, finally, you feel as if there is a mercy placed upon you by your Godfather. Because without them,
You wouldn't be
who you are.
who you are.
Who you are. And I think this is the disease when you look at the politics of our country. We are suffering from the disease of consumption, because that is how somebody consumes you, raw, without salt.
Yes.
You know.
These movies, some of them teach a lot of things. You see one person walks in the street, picks one young man in the street, takes them to school, trains them to kill, then starts using them as hitmen. So later on in life, the hitman realizes, I've not been doing a good job.
This is not even who I am.
This is not even who I am. Because I used to be a very good young man. But then again, you remember, you were in the streets. Now you are living in some high-end estate. Because by being a hitman, you are getting very good salary. This old man who introduced you to this kind of business accept you in his home as if you are his own children, identify you as his kid.
He doesn't fail to remind you so also.
Yes, you are my son. But later in life you realize, what I do for this man is kill his opponents for him. But I've killed enough. Actually, killing is bad. The moment you tell him like that, that's when you know you are not his son. You are his tool. And that's a concept that is very present in the political parties that we have. Most of the political parties that have existed for some years, as you say, they are private entities, where you don't go against the person who introduced you there. So even quitting becomes a problem. Because for decades, this is what the only thing you know. So even if you quit, where are you going? That at least here I am useful, I can do this. But when I leave, now, this is the only family I have. Like when I said your own biological family disowned you. This is the only family you know. So leaving means that you do not have the family that disowned you, and this other one also. So you will be alone.
You're no man's person.
Yes. So that, to some extent, people could be asking, why isn't Sifuna resigning?
Yes.
Try put your feet in his shoes for a minute. Just imagine you are Edwin Sifuna. What do you do? And look at Railas people. There is Railas people everywhere. Gladys Wanga is silent. He speaks
Rarely.
rarely. Junet is very viciously loud in defending government. Sifuna is viciously loud in attacking government. Babu Owino is in the other
Far extreme, silent.
far extreme, talking the language of the other people who posed a threat to Raila Odinga. So if Raila Odinga wants to collect intelligence, he has people in government, he has people outside government, he has those ones who are keeping silent.
He's collecting fragments.
Yes. So he's in position to know how every camp is planning.
And this is a problem that has faced Raila Odinga's campaign strategies over and over, because he has no people who can sit him down and tell him the truth. These people orbit around him in proximity, hoping that at least this is going to step me up to something that
Yes.
I value,
Yes.
but not to the bigger picture that Raila Odinga has had as a vision.
Immediately he loses elections. His members of the ODM, those who've been elected as members of parliament, they go to be sworn in. Those who are governors assume office. And people, those who, some of them wait for nomination. But do they think about him? And I think because he knows that, he could be knowing that. That's why in the previous episode we talked about people go pay homage to him, carrying gifts, very expensive perfumes. He knows the only reason you are here is because you want a party ticket. So you have to pay handsomely for it.
It's a moment for you to bleed.
Yes. So can you get me 10 million as I think about it? So that's not a surety. But your 10 million will make me think about it.
It's a platform offered.
Yes. So do you want me to think about it? Yes. Bring 10 million. So if you lose the ticket, you know that I thought about it, but I saw you were not fit for the ticket. And because I'm always right, I gave it to someone else.
I saw a tweet yesterday that went to the direction of saying that the only business in Kenya is politics. In other words, you come to this earth to do business with politics. And how so true it went for me, because I have seen how people think young people are unpatriotic, that we want to kill our only motherland, that we want to run it down and turn it to South Sudan and the bigger Sudan, that we want to make it a Somalia. And it saddens me because far from it, I think that a mother is a sponge.
Yes.
A mother takes, most of our mothers, I'm using the metaphor of our mothers because that's the closest I can bring this picture into focus. Most of our mothers suffer tremendously. They did menial jobs. They were humiliated in the village. They borrowed left, right, and center. In other words, our mothers were absorbing tragedy so that we could cross over to better life. I believe that Kenya has been suffering the same trauma and tragedies, so that at least the future has a chance. And that same future has been in crisis for a long time. And something you mentioned very important to notice is we have swept things under the carpet for so long that the carpet has become the floor.
Yes.
The dirt that we have swept, the history, the trauma, the killings, the murder, the economic crimes, they have compounded to become the very floor we lay our backs on. And we cannot continue anymore because, you can only defer innocence for so long. You can only pretend that something does not exist for so long. Even if you're in a marriage of convenience, like right now I believe the MOU is a marriage of convenience. Yeah. At some point you'll start biting each other. At some point somebody will be waking up. There's a meme that comes to mind of a lady looking over at the husband and thinking, could I pick this pillow and suffocate this man of a husband I have here? Because the hatred has grown compounded into a grief that it reaches a point that grief becomes you. You become the very grief, like you brought in the idea of training somebody to become your hitman.
Yes.
Grief has become this hitman. And until they reach their Damascus point where they get a change of heart and return back to the middle. And I think this is one of the things I love about patriotic and loving and empathetic young people and people across generations who have gotten to a point and seen that we can no longer do things the very same way we have done them in the past. That at some point, I will have to at least forgo something so that the next person can also live a bearable life. And this does not take so much. It does not take so much when our hospitals are funded and there's medicine for the chemo that I go through every other day. It does not take so much for our farmers to have fertilizer, for our sugarcane farmers to be paid in time. It does not take so much that farmers in Mount Kenya are having the same issues, whether we are planting different stuff. The issue is there is equity in payment, and it is timely, and it is fair, and it is transparent where shares and dividends are involved. it does not take so much to be an empathetic person, because I believe it ripples back to you. So when I see people criticize people who have seen light and seen that as a country our direction is going wrong, as a country we have to come back to the middle and stop biting each other so viciously. We have to stop the wounding, because the wounding is not from America or CIA or IMF or World Bank. Yes, there are such woundings. But I believe at some point we have so much talked about post-colonialism as a theory, or as a structure, or as a way of understanding why we are as African countries the way we are. But it is the same people who 50 or 60 years later, educated through structural adjustment programs, and have seen the wreckage those have done, they are still loaning. And even when they are loaned, they do not do anything productive with it. We can only see an air gap of white elephant projects. In other words, we are still squandering the very same thing that we promised our people would benefit them by putting up dams, by putting up irrigation schemes, by financing higher education, by financing healthcare. So I believe we are at a point where we are getting back and saying, I can love you as a parent. And I love this so much about my daughter is 14, and how she approaches me and how I believe I was at that age. It's very different. She is of the opinion that, yes, I am a child, but we can sit down as equals because we are both human beings too. There's a moment in point where we converge as human beings. And the same pain you feel, I feel it. The same confusion you feel when something is not met, you feel it. The same indignation you feel when somebody wrongs you in school, when somebody says a mean thing in school, it's the same thing I feel when I go to the hospital and my drugs are not there. You understand? So we are at a point where we are realizing that the system is what needs to be tended to, and not personality. Personality is so withering. Last month I saw the body of Muhammad Buhari, who almost half of his term in Nigeria, he spent abroad in palatial executive hospital wings. And that's the same thing that happens with most of our politicians. The personality, the thing of our bodies and personhood is so withering. The privileges we have only seem so significant because we are enjoying the moment. Once those are taken away, and the thing is, the government or the state is a creature, is a monster of its own thing. And a monster can be pacified, can be trained, just like we train buffaloes. When I went to India, I saw that they are milking buffaloes. And buffaloes, in my Luo dialect, Joey is so vicious and angry and charged that you cannot imagine domesticating them. And so I do imagine that the tragedies and the circumstances we find ourselves as a country can be moved towards betterment, if only we understood them and became more honest about it. And while we started this episode as a Raila thing and looking in terms of what is happening in ODM, we do realize that this is the mirror moment for the whole bigger country.
Yes. What I can say, we do all these conversations aiming towards one thing: a better country for everyone. I'm working with someone who tells me how he wants this country to be if we get a good president. Someone who talks about we have enough, but the only problem is how we use it. The monies that goes through these halls of corruption and all that can provide for medication for everyone. You can even get a surgery for free. The only amount of money we need for that service, to provide free healthcare service per year in this country, is 360 billion, which can be achievable. We only need 450 billion to take to our counties. We need 600 billion to pay salaries. We need 400 billion to do government operations. We need like another 400 billion to do agriculture and provide food for everyone. And take education. Education every year, we will need like 195 billion. We can only achieve this if we do what we call prudent management of the resources that we have, and desist from the urge of being selfish and engaging ourselves in actions that only aim at enriching ourselves to be so filthy rich, and we don't think about other people. There are two things that as a country we need to look at, and we'll have to look at it even if we don't want to. The issue that we are using a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to pay debt, and we do not see them why we are paying this debt. People take loans, people in government,
Yes.
on behalf of the Kenyan people, citing some projects. Then they pocket the money for their own private use. Then later on you see some higher taxation proposal from the same government, squeezing some coins out of your pocket, and when you ask why, they tell you we have a debt to pay. And you ask them, what did we do with the money? They cannot explain. And that thing has brought some effects that are affecting you directly.
Right.
If you have a pay slip, it's been raided, and your deductibles are so much, it's almost same as the money
You're taking home. Almost more even.
Sometimes
Some
more.
cases, yeah.
And in other countries, and when you ask questions, sometimes the president said that we are only taxing Kenyans around 19%, 20%, but in Japan, they are taxed 35%. So let's do a swift comparison between Japan and Kenya. Japan is a heavily industrialized country where the issue of young people haggling for jobs is non-existent. So even if they are taxed, they have good roads, they have swift
Transit system.
Transit system. There is no worry that you will go to hospital and miss your medication. And people will not even feel bad about it because they see where their money is going to. But even if we are being taxed 19%, where are we seeing? Where is it going?
Commensurate to 19%.
Yes. What is the return on our investment, even as we pay taxes? Another thing that has been a problem is that the government has become the biggest customer to all banks. The banks prefer lending money to the government and not people, because government is ready, is taking a loan at the interest rate of 14% and risk assessment rate of 3.5%, which goes to 17.5%. So as a private individual citizen, when you go to a bank looking for a loan, the bank will be unwilling to give you that loan or agree to give you the loan at 20%.
And 20%, yes.
So it becomes so tedious and unaffordable for you. And therefore, there is cut to accessing credit by citizens. And that's why businesses have been struggling. There is no circulation of cash. And those are the things that we want to look at even as we champion for a better country, that we have the capacity to build a country that we will not even believe this was our country. But that has to come out of deliberate effort by the Kenyan people themselves to decide that we need better things than this. That sometimes I'm encouraging them that even as you approach elections, life is all about others, and I want every Kenyan to think about himself for a minute. That even as you go to vote, think about the road outside your house. How do you want it? The hospital on your market center, the school in that village, the county hospital in that area, the highways, look around you. How many young people graduated but they do not have jobs? Look at how the police is behaving. How would you want all these things solved? Define the problem. Then once you have the problem, look around the people who want to solve that problem. Who looks like they are fit to solve that problem? Because even as we think about ourselves as ordinary Kenyans, we'll be thinking about the same thing: how our children go to school, how we access medication, how security. And at the end of the day, we will arrive at one person. If we are truly going to look at the issues. Because we've been taken through a lot of unnecessary noise. We are forced to discuss about ODM. We are forced to discuss whether Ruto will come back or not. We are forced to discuss how is Gachagua even a better candidate than William. But we forget that there are real issues. That is the problem William Ruto. Are we sure that when he goes, because he will go, that things will be different? Are we not going to come back here and cry about the same issues under a different president?
Whom we imagine better.
Who we imagined better. Are we ready to go that direction? What is it that we want done? Like, for example, the expose that happened. Uhuru Kenyatta's government, you take a loan, you build a highway, you put tolls on it, then you charge people for using a highway that you build by loans that will be paid by their taxes, but you're the only person taking the benefit.
And for 30 years.
For 30 years.
What kind of greed is that?
Okay, we know that the Kenyatta family is considerably rich, even without
having to invest further.
Yes. What is it that is pushing them so much to continue milking these things? And these people in government, beginning from our president, they have looted more than they will ever need.
Almost 5 generations to come.
And they have a lot of money that they actually wonder where they will take the money. And because, to some extent, wealth and riches dehumanizes a human being.
It does.
And you stop seeing people as their equals, you start seeing them as subjects to serve you. And so you don't see a reason why they need anything. All they need is you to provide. That's why you see all these bills coming up, privatization bill of 2023, where the government is planning to auction, to privatize nearly everything.
Nearly 85% of parastatals.
Yes. Why is he confident in talking about privatization? Because he's the only one with the money to buy the shares.
Out all these.
If Safaricom offloads government shares, who has the money to buy them?
And who has the wind of it?
And who has the wind? Who knows that Safaricom is
actually selling the shares?
Yes. It's him who sits in the cabinet and agrees with the cabinet that actually Safaricom has to share. And because chairman of Safaricom is Adel Kawanja, who is his ally, he will influence the board of directors at Safaricom. At the end of the day, who is going to be the highest shareholder? It's him. Who knows how Kengen, supplier of power to Kenya Power, if we privatize it, who has money to buy it? Through proxies. It's still him. He will sell power to Kenya Power at very high prices. Kenya Power will have to
be at his mercy.
Yes. They will send the knock-off effect to me and you. The country runs on fuel and electricity.
It's the lifeblood of it.
Yes. And this guy knows it. That's why they are like 4 strategic state infrastructure that are set to be privatized. And it's one person who is going to buy them all because he has more than enough to buy. Then the business is left for hustlers. His children are coming for them. Now he's not satisfied with controlling the communication infrastructure.
Telecoms, yeah.
He is not satisfied with
Chief
controlling
healthcare.
chief healthcare. He's not satisfying with controlling fuel. He's not satisfied with how we control what comes in and out of the country through the port and the airport. Now he's coming with the coins that are now in your pocket as bus fare.
So, other words, utterly crippling you.
Yes. So who do you remain?
You're a shell of yourself.
A shell of yourself at the mercy of this one person. So he could go home. He will go home. But how are we prepared to clear the mess he will have created? So a Kenyan should think about that favorite presidential candidate you have. Does he have the capacity to reverse all this? Because by the time he goes, and because he knows he's going, he could use...
He's on a spree actually right now.
Yes. He's packing most everything. He could use the Samsung solution that I go down and I go down with most of the things. Then the president who is coming will have to be someone who is a really very brilliant and cares about the people. Otherwise, we cannot get out of this mess. So the biggest issue is how do people access money first? Then all these things will come back to normal. We can punish those who are using state resources in a bad way, and we use what we have prudently. You know, as a business person, I know the value of people having money. Because you know that when I put this jacket up for sale, it will not take 10 minutes because you have the money to buy it.
Yes.
You could like this jacket, I have put it up for sale, but you do not have the money. And the government understands that people with money are hard to control. Because you don't have to call me for an empowerment program. You don't have to come for handouts. I will deal with it myself. So how do they control you? They make sure that when you hear there will be 1,000 shillings.
You crumple for it.
You crumble for it.
Interesting. Political mobilization and voter behavior is changing significantly. There is a lot of work. I've always insisted that any act of liberation, any act of reversing the mess that we are in currently requires so much work that sometimes I'm afraid not many of us are willing to do, and not many of us are also even aware of. I want us to wrap while also looking or inferring to the future of ODM, and I want to read something finally. I had at least 3 pathways, and path A was ODM morphs into a policy-oriented party, deepens internal democracy and fosters next-generation leadership. It claims a pivot from protests to governance, but I think this requires institutional clarity and policy substance. Pathway B is a youth-led split emerges frustrated, radical voices or other figures break off. ODM retains structure but becomes junior partner. Dissidents form a new movement. Most likely ODM will be a tribal outfit. Pathway C is ODM suffocates under coalition logic. Its identity is diluted. It becomes indistinguishable from other alliances. It loses base in Nyanza Coast, parts of Rift Valley that used to be its power base. And so with this posture and the crossroad we find ourselves in, because already I am foreseeing a situation where parties will no longer be so useful, especially if you cannot be able to answer the questions that we are asking, the real objective and lived experience questions that we are asking.
Yes.
What's the point?
If you can't answer that question, then you don't have there's no business calling yourself a political party. The political party has to bring clarity of policy in how are you going to safeguard human rights? How are you going to make sure that your economic policies are practical, that in the sense that when you get power, your economic policies are practically and are positively affecting the people? How are our institutions under the leadership of this political party going to operate? Are we going to operate at the whim of someone in the party because he's a leader? Or there will be independence and actual work done by institutions? If we do not know that, then I do not think that party should even exist.
In the first place.
Some questions we are not even going to ask. We will just look at how the party operates and we will have the answers.
Yes.
Coming here, I passed by UDA headquarters.
Yes, the Gong Road, yes.
It looks like a deserted building. So, if the ruling party headquarters
is dead,
practically, how do you expect public institutions operating under the rule of that party to operate? That is why, you have to show leadership all the way from how you manage your party. When you go to other countries, you will find parties that are very vibrant. You see, this party has a policy lead in agriculture. He has his office there. It's a beehive of activities. They have a policy
research.
Lead, research. They have a policy lead history. They have policy lead health. If we can't see that with the political party that you're talking about, then we are sorry we are not going to be part of that party, because we will not expect anything else apart from the total collapse of institutions. Someone told me that if you want to know how the country operates, for example, if you go to a new country, when you arrive at the airport, just look at how that airport operates. You're coming into their country. How is security? How are you being checked at the airport? How serious is it? The people doing business, because at the travel center, there are people doing businesses around there.
Yes.
How are they? What is their state of affairs? Are they under good shades? How are the things that they are selling?
Moving.
Once you see that, you see the attitude of that country towards its workers, the working population, the attitude of that country towards that.
And the ethics of nationhood.
Yes. From there, you should go to their health centers and see how they are. When you find 2 clinical officers in a big hospital like Mbagathi, you get an opinion that this country does not even respect women. It's said that 90% of the users of our health centers are women. They are the ones who take our children to hospital. In most cases, it's the woman you have that knows you are even
you're unwell.
You are unwell and forces you to go to hospital.
Very true.
Yes, they are the ones who go there for maternity, clinical checkups.
Even the health-seeking behaviors are different from those of men.
Yes, so you could be staying with a woman in your house. It's a month you've not gone to hospital, but she's gone 3 times. So if health centers of that country is not working well, the attitude of that country towards the women is bad. From there, as I mentioned, you go to the headquarters of the ruling party. When you find a deserted building the way UDA is, you see the attitude towards public institutions. That's why I'm not surprised when I see institutions being
So auctioned off.
Auctioned off.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a very great honor to drive this conversation. We at Political Headache are very much thrilled to have you with us. We are very much honored to champion these conversations. I'm a firm believer that the work needed, like I've mentioned earlier, is so much, and the much we do here is a small little drop in the bigger ocean and blotted swamp of what we are dealing with. If you do not know or are not aware of what we are dealing with, this should be a call out to you, because we should not do business as the way we have always done them before, because that is going to bury us. I have a feeling we most likely are in the ICU. I don't know if at some point I thought we might be in the mortuary waiting for our burial. But there's some sense of redemption as of last year that made me believe that ICU is not a bad thing. Human beings are very adaptable.
Yes.
Human beings are compassionate. I know life gets you to a cruel place and you think this is a jungle and politics is a jungle. It is made so. Institutions are not blocks or this building that we are recording this podcast in.
Yes.
Institutions are you and me. It's Joachim and I and all of us in this country and all over the world. How we treat each other, how we think about our problems, how we face them, how we confront the ugly truths about us, because we all have our ugly truths. All of us here are capable of actually being corrupt.
Yes.
All of us here are capable of murder. All of us here are capable of doing very shady stuff. It is the voice inside you, the political consciousness, because man is a political animal. You go back and internalize and absorb, and you place yourself in a community, because without community, I don't think we are going to survive what is coming for us, what is already here. Without that community of looking at how we spend our resources, how we spend our time, how we treat each other, we might not do much.
Yeah.
But every little contribution in your own space goes a long way. And that has always been my belief. My name is Omundia Chuka, and this is Political Headache. Please consider subscribing, leaving us a comment. If you want to appear on the show, please reach out to us, and we'll be able to have a communication with you. Your parting shots.
I'm asking the young people to register as voters massively and prepare to vote overwhelmingly, as if life depends on it, because actually it depends on it. Meanwhile, before we get there, let's hold these people accountable. Let's love each other as Kenyans. Do not engage yourself in tribal bigotry, because that's what our enemy wants us to engage in. But if we get out of these tribal cocoons, we are going to achieve the lofty dreams, the lofty Kenyan dreams that have often been hidden in this vice called tribalism. My name is Joachim Smith. It's been a pleasure to be here. And please consider subscribing and just put your finger on that bell as you wait for more episodes, because this is just the beginning.
Absolutely.